Hi, I'm Marissa Petraglia, and today I'm going to be talking about engaging students in meaningful learning using a rotational learning model. I am a high school social studies and family consumer science teacher at PA Distance Learning Charter School, which is a cyber school in Wexford, Pennsylvania. So, a common goal among teachers, whether it be in the cyber setting or in a brick and mortar classroom, is how to best engage students in meaningful learning. And I've noticed a few roadblocks to student engagement in my experience. So, first of all, engagement in a cyber setting is especially challenging because cyber teachers do not have their students in their physical presence to re engage disengaged learners. So, this is certainly a roadblock for cyber teachers. Another roadblock to engagement is the traditional instruction style of lecture. Long lectures don't provide a meaningful learning experience in the classroom, and it also doesn't practice skills that will be expected of students once they enter the workforce. So they don't practice those real world skills in a lecture format. After recognizing the roadblocks, it's then the task, how do we overcome them? So, the solution that I have found to be effective is a rotational learning method of teaching. I started with the goal of increasing student engagement. And in order to do this, I incorporated Bloom's taxonomy, universal design for learning, and rotational learning in a teaching method blueprint that I can use to teach any concept. And this blueprint, this practice that I use, can be used not just at the high school level, but in the middle and elementary classrooms as well. And not just in cyber school, but in brick and mortar as well. So I use Bloom's taxonomy, which is a framework for teachers to create instructional objectives. And I employ the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy, which allows learners to use these lower level foundational skills to build upon and successfully engage in the higher level thinking skills. So I incorporated this into my teaching methodology by creating different learning activities that are centered on the progressively higher level of Bloom's taxonomy to engage students. Another important consideration is that not all learners learn the same way. And so to engage students, their individual differences have to be taken into consideration. A student who is not engaged in the lesson could just be doing so because they're not being asked to learn in a way that fits with their learning style. So, with this in mind, I incorporated universal design for learning into my plan as well. And the three main principles of UDL are to provide multiple means of engagement, of representation, and of expression. And I'll go into a little bit about how I did this in my teaching methodology. So, providing multiple means of engagement. This basically is just providing variety in the lesson. So, this is the why of the lesson. This might mean allowing learners to regulate their learning during goal setting and reflection activities, which I do at the end of my lessons. But also, it's allowing for a variety of learning experiences. Multiple means of engagement, like I said, is this why. Why are the students learning this? Providing multiple means of representation. This is allowing for different ways to deliver information to students. So, allowing students choice in how they get the information. And this can help to get students engaged as they now have a say in their learning. This here is an example that I've used in my classroom. I present the information in either a paragraph or in a YouTube video. And so the students can choose which way they want to get the information. They engage with the information and then they answer some questions on it. The questions are the same no matter which way they choose, and the information is the same no matter which option they choose. They just get that option to do something a little bit different, which kind of matches up with their preferred way of learning. And then provide multiple means of expression. So, this can be providing multiple means of response formats, allowing for different ways to navigate assessments, using flexible assessment practices. Some students express their competencies better orally than in writing. And if the objective of the lesson is for them to prove their competency with the material, then it doesn't necessarily matter how they express that. If the objectives of the lesson do have a writing component or something of the sort, then it would matter. But if the students are just being assessed on their competence with the material, then allowing that flexible assessment practice can help students who do express their competency better orally than in writing. I've used some online tools like Vocaroo and Flipgrid to do this. Vocaroo is a website that allows users to record audio and share it either with a link or by downloading the recording. And Flipgrid is a video discussion board where students can collaborate and respond to each other in short videos. And I've used both of these as formative assessment tools for lessons. I also used an integrated rotational learning in my practice. And rotational learning allows students to collaborate and cooperate with one another in small groups. And this is a practice that's often seen in preschools. You'll see these different station rotations or early elementary, but it is certainly very beneficial for the secondary setting as well, for high school and middle school. And it allows the teacher to provide multiple learning activities to meet objectives of a lesson. There are different types of rotational learning, and Horn and Staker outline four different types of rotational learning. One is station rotation, which is most closely related to what I do in my class. This is where students move to different stations, completing different activities through each one. They complete both online and offline work. And that's where my method differs from this traditional station rotation is in a cyber setting, my assignments will all be online. The next is lab rotation. This is where students work in a computer lab for part of their learning and then work in the traditional classroom on additional work. The flipped classroom is another way to use rotational learning where students receive direct instruction outside of class and then perform tasks to apply their learning in class. And then there's individual rotation, which has students moving through stations independently based on their individual needs in the lesson. And this requires self-regulated learning from students. Now, my rotational learning methodology is basically a four-part plan, and it incorporates Bloom's taxonomy, UDL, and rotational learning. And the first part is an opening question. Then we do a short direct instruction activity. We do rotations, and then there's a wrap up at the end. And I can plug this plan into any concept that I'm teaching, and I have taught a variety of different things using this methodology. This is an example. Well, this is the actual blueprint that I start with, and it includes all of those parts that I just previously mentioned. I made it in a Google Doc, and I can just make a copy of this and insert the specific content of the day's lesson. So you can see the question of the day, the whole group instruction, the different rotation rooms, and then the wrap up. This is an example of the completed plans. This is one that I used when I taught general adaptation syndrome in my psychology class. You can see all of the different parts are included here. The different rooms are numbered 1, 2, 3. The links to all of the activities that the students will do. I have this all really organized because this helps me when I get into the lesson to have everything organized. I can see everything at once so that I'm ready to go, which is a very important part of rotational learning is having this preparation done ahead of time. This is another example of another one that I did in one of my classes. You can see again, everything's linked there. I made the backgrounds that you'll see in the breakout room on Canva, so that students, when they get in there, they have everything right in front of them. All the directions are on there. So, the first thing that we do when students get into class is they engage with this opening question, which I call the question of the day. And this is a growth mindset aligned question. And the growth mindset creates the opportunity for students to think positively about their abilities and their ability to grow and get better. And I found that having students in that positive mindset when we start the class makes them more open to trying new things. So I use that growth mindset question purposely in the very beginning of class. And another thing with this question of the day is that I found that having students answer these low stakes questions at the knowledge or comprehension level makes them more comfortable answering questions later in class because they've already answered one. The next thing that we do is this short direct instruction, and this is a whole group instruction activity. It's no longer than 10 minutes out of a 45-minute class period. And of course, the long 45-minute whole class lecture is not a good teaching practice. But when learning new concepts, students do need that direct instruction time. So during this direct instruction, I give the main concepts to the students, that they're going to be working with, and I provide background information and important clarifications that they'll need to succeed independently in those higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. I also provide guided notes, which are helpful for the students to access the information later when they're working on it independently. The next thing is the rotations. And these rotations are in the mixed ability cyber breakout rooms that you can see here. On the right hand side, you can see the breakout rooms, and I can move the students from room to room. On the board, I have the directions, and there are 4 to 5 students in each group. The rooms contain learning activities that cover the different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. There are about 3 rooms per lesson, typically one low level activity like a knowledge or comprehension, one mid level, and then one high level where the students are analyzing or creating something in the rooms. And this could easily be done in a brick and mortar classroom by just separating the students in clusters around the room. This is how I do it in the cyber setting. And the students work together in these rooms to either answer a question or to produce something like a poster or diagram. This is one of the examples of something that students created together in a breakout room. This was um, in the lesson on drugs in psychology. They created a flyer about the different types of drugs that we covered that they could share with students. This is another example. This was a Venn diagram that they created about the nervous system, comparing and contrasting. And then finally, after the rotations are completed, we all get back together in the main room and I give them this wrap up form. This is a Google form and it serves a few functions. The first section is a retrieval practice, the next section is a self reflection, and then the last section asks students to report their understanding. The brain dump, which is that first section, is a retrieval practice. Students who write down everything they remember have been found to be more likely to be able to recall it at a later time. So the first section, they just write down everything they remember from the lesson. Since this is a Google form, I'm also able to see their responses. So if a student writes something that's incorrect or they don't write, anything of substance, I can go back and follow up with them because I have this information from them. The next section is the self-reflection of their work, and this gives students the ability to monitor their effectiveness and it encourages them to take control of their learning. So they grade their performance and explain the grade that they gave themselves. And then the last section, uh, after they have done the self report, they assess their understanding of the topic. This is a conditional form, so based on how they answer, they'll be taken to a different page. So I create the form, I add all of the sections in, and then by clicking on the menu bar on the question, I can click on go to section based on answer, and it will take them to a different part based on how to answer it. So the question is, how do you feel about your understanding of today's topic? They can either choose great, totally got it, not great, I still don't really understand the topic, which takes them to a reteach page, or great, but I really like this topic and want to learn more, which takes them to an enrichment page. If they indicate they understand the information, it takes them to a page with a celebration, either a GIF or a meme, something that will make them smile, and a little thank you for their hard work for the day. And then it allows them to turn in the form. If they indicate that they understood the information but want to learn more, it takes them to a form with enrichment resources. And the students can explore these on their own time if they enjoy the information. Some of these will be at a higher level so that they can, engage with some higher level information. And then from this page, they can submit the form. And then if they indicate that they still don't understand the topic, it takes them to this reteach form. And this reteach section just gives them some more information about the topic. When students work in groups, they can run the risk of falling victim to the group effect, where they're just kind of moved along by their classmates who might have a better understanding of the material. So, this section allows them to quietly let me know that there's still something that they don't quite understand and they might need some more information on it. Each resource that I choose for this page explains part of the topic in a clear and concise way. And I also try to use both videos and articles to give the students variety and choice. And since this is a Google form, like I said before, it collects their email addresses. And so I'm able to see what each student is answering. So I can see that a student chose that they didn't really understand it. And I'm able to then follow up with them later and make sure that they understand it or give them some more instruction if they still don't quite understand. And then once they are done with this form, they can then submit the form. So again, my goal was to increase student engagement and learning. I used this for a semester, and what I found was that students were engaged on a higher level with greater frequency than when I have used different teaching methods. I also found that I had a higher class attendance, which is also a struggle with cyber school, getting students to attend the live learning classes. So I had success there as well. And I also had a lower rate of failure this semester that I adopted this teaching method. So less students failed. So that signifies retention of content. And most importantly, I got positive feedback from the students. I got overwhelmingly positive response to this type of teaching. Students telling me that they enjoyed the lessons, that they enjoyed coming to the class because it was always something new and something that, excited them. And I got a lot of self reports of them having more engagement with a lesson as well, which is a real success of this type of teaching method. So, this is a method that can be used in the elementary, in the middle level, and at the high school level to better engage students in learning.